Paragon of Dragon, Saga 1, Part 3. Victory? As Kiva watches from the hilltop, still slightly hidden in the forest brush, her horse-like ears twitch as she hears Kronos speak and repeat his words as he holds the captain up in the air. She can hear Kronos plain as day with her new improved hearing, as he asks the sentries where the new Paragon is. Suddenly, 3 sentries rush Kronos to save their captain. Seeing this from the corner of his eye, Kronos hurls the captain at them, sending all 4 6-foot-plus male centurions to the ground with a thunderous crash. Xander's eyes grow wide, witnessing the brutal display. "Ready yourselves! We're in for a real fight," Xander says as he takes on a battle stance. Kiva watches as the battle unfolds below and takes in a deep breath and thinks back to the promise she made to Xander. "Sorry, Xander, but I'm going to have to break my promise," she says as she charges down the hill, heading towards the battle. When she arrives, Kiva sees one of the sentries cut in half at the waist by Kronos' sword. His blood spills onto the ground. Xander is on one knee, his shield touches the ground, and his sword lays before him with his hand barely gripping it. Xander's left eye is swollen shut, and he is battered and bruised. In the few moments she came down the hill, Kronos made quick work of the sentries. Many lay on the ground, either dead or groaning from pain. Kronos' attention turns to Xander and begins to methodically walk over to him. His shadow looms over Xander, cascading him in darkness. He begins speaking in the ancient language again towards Xander as he closes in on him. Xander watches Kronos carefully and steadies his breathing. Once Kronos is close enough, Xander launches a strike with his shield with all of his might. The strike causes Kronos to grunt and hold his abdomen for a mere moment. He takes a couple steps back. Kronos now sees Xander will not quit fighting. Shit. That was almost the last of my strength. I'm not going to be able to block his next attack, Xander thinks as he breathes hard. Kronos' eyes fixate on Xander, and he emits a low, menacing growl as he draws his great sword back, keeping his eye on Xander. "Oh shit! I have to do something, or this bastard is going to carve up Xander like a turkey on Thanksgiving," Kiva thinks in her male voice as she frantically looks around. She spots a sword and shield from a downed sentry. Taking in a deep breath, she runs and grabs them and charges into battle at full speed. Kronos looms over Xander and raises his sword to strike him down. "Well, this is it. I hope the villagers are safe," and Kiva making her way towards Solace, Xander says to himself as he closes his eyes. He hears the swoop of the sword coming down, but to his surprise, he feels nothing. He hears one of the loudest flashes of metal he has ever heard. When Xander opens his eyes, they grow wide when he sees Kiva before him. Her shield absorbed the massive greatsword's impact. Her legs wobble slightly from Kronos' sheer brute force. She grits her teeth, never feeling anything like it before, not even in the Army Rangers. "Kiva! What are you doing? I told you to run away!" Xander yells. "Yeah, I know, but it's not in my nature to just run away. You could say I'm stubborn as hell, but I lean on my training from the Army Rangers back home," Kiva says firmly. "Kiva, don't be," Xander begins to say before cuts him off. "I'm not leaving you alone to this asshole," Kiva says stubbornly as she attempts to overpower Kronos. Kronos suddenly increases his downforce strength on Kiva with a snarl, causing Kiva to grunt. Ugh. His eyes give off a reddish glow as he tries to push her to the ground. Noticing that Kronos' focus is to force her to the ground, Kiva makes a stabbing attack with the sword, aiming for his head. Kronos quickly tilts his head, avoiding the bulk of the attack, but the sword grazes his cheek, drawing some blood. This sudden attack from Kiva makes Kronos rethink his strategy and backs off his new opponent to gauge her more. "This girl isn't a sentry, nor is she an ordinary centurion," Kronos says out loud in the ancient language as he assesses her. "You've got that right, bastard. I'm no sentry, but like hell I'm going to let you kill Xander or anyone else," Kiva says sternly towards Kronos, which makes his eyes grow wide. You understood what I said? How intriguing. That means you're the one I've been seeking, Kronos says with an evil grin. The one you're seeking... Before Kiva can finish, she is punched in the stomach, which quickly takes her breath away while making her nauseous. The strike doubles her over, and she emits a loud grunt of pain. Kronos then grabs the 6-foot female centurion by the back of her neck and tosses her aside like a rag doll down to the ground. Kiva lands harshly, and as she rolls, the sword she picked up flies out of her hand. In the process, she rolls several times, kicking up dust and debris. When Kiva comes to a stop, she spits up blood. When she tries to rise to her feet, Kronos is already behind her and knocks her back to the ground with an insidious kick to her back. Kiva lands with a horrible sounding thud and groans in immense pain. She has never felt so much pain from anyone striking her, even when she fought hand-to-hand combat back in the Army Rangers. Shit, I feel like I was hit by a damn freight train, Kiva thinks in her male voice as she struggles to catch her breath. Leave her alone, you monster! Xander yells as he struggles to his own feet. Kronos glares menacingly in Xander's direction, and in the blink of an eye, Xander suddenly eye to lizard-like eye with Kronos. Wait your turn, you insignificant whelp. Kronos emits a low growl. Xander's eyes grow wide, and before he knows it, he is sent flying through a village hovel. Upon landing, he emits a groan of agony as he coughs up blood, all caused by a single punch to the abdomen from Kronos. I never saw him move. How can he be so fast? I need to do something to help Kiva. She's in grave danger now. Xander thinks to himself as he struggles to catch his breath. Kiva still tries to get on her feet after Kronos' brutal attack. As he is distracted by Xander, her breath is ragged and some sweat forms on her brow. Her body feels heavy from the brutal attack. I can't take any more blows like that. I've never felt anything or seen anything like it. It was just plain brutal. And what does this asshole want with me? Kiva says to herself through shallow breaths as she manages to stand. As she straightens up, she is eye to eye with Kronos. Before Kiva can act, Kronos grabs her by the throat and lifts her off the ground, making her feet dangle in midair. Instinctively, Kiva kicks Kronos in the stomach and immediately regrets it when her bare foot hits his solid armor. Kiva's yelp is gargled from Kronos' grip around her throat. Ugh. Xander can barely see what is happening now, but he sees that Kiva's body is going limp from lack of air. He struggles to his feet as he does. He notices the shield on the ground before him. Xander quickly grabs the circular shield and hurls it in Kronos' direction. The shield impacts Kronos' armor in the back, which gives off a thunderous singing clang that rings out into the distance, followed by a slightly softer clang as the shield hits the ground. Kronos sinisterly turns towards Xander. His grip on Kiva's throat hasn't loosened. Once Kronos' gaze falls upon the young Centurion warrior, the hairs on the back of Xander's neck go completely on end as he senses the bloodlust pierce through him. Kronos now sets his focus on Xander and walks methodically towards him as he drags Kiva's motionless body behind him. If you wish to die that badly, you insignificant bug, I am more than happy to oblige you, Kronos says in a low, menacing growl. Let her go, bastard. I'll save her if it becomes my last act on this plane of existence, Xander fires back, showing no fear toward the powerful dragon being before him. Hearing Xander's words, Kronos finally releases Kiva from his grasp and once again takes up his sword in hand, and it appears as if he plucks it out of thin air as he walks towards Xander like an animal stalking his prey. If you are so willing to die, then so be it, Kronos says coldly and charges towards Xander at great speed. As Kronos gets closer to Xander, he raises his sword. Xander manages to rise to his feet and take on a defensive stance with his fists as he braces for the final clash with the powerful being. Just as Kronos' shadow looms over Xander and is about to strike him with his sword, He is tackled from behind by Kiva, who wraps her arms around his neck in a chokehold and her legs wrapped firmly around his waist. "What is this? Who is doing this?" Cronus demanded in a rage as he moves erratically to shake off his new attacker. "I told you before. I won't let you hurt anyone else today, asshole. And I'm not going to let go of you. I promise you. I will take you down, bastard," Kiva proclaims. Kronos' movements grow more erratic when he hears Kiva's voice. His rage grows and he begins to strike her in the head with his armored fist, trying to knock her off. But to his surprise, Kiva's grip doesn't loosen up, it grows tighter. "This woman, she is dangerous, more dangerous than initially predicted. I must end this somehow and quickly, or I will lose this battle," Kronos thinks as he feels his breath becoming shallow breaths. Kronos grips his sword tightly and readies it to strike Kiva with the pommel to knock her off of him as he grows more desperate. Just as Kronos is about to strike Kiva with his sword's pommel, he is struck in the chest by a magical attack that brings him down to one knee. He quickly looks up in the sky and sees a female mage in flowing garb colored light blue and white. She hovers above them. In one hand she holds a golden staff. "What are you doing here, wench?" Kronos growls demandingly, watching as the mage lowers herself to the ground. In the distance, a thunderous sound of horse hooves begins to fill the air. Xander collapses to one knee and turns in the direction of the sound. Kiva peers over Kronos' shoulder and sees a plume of dust rising in the distance. They can see horses with riders coming towards the village at tremendous speed. Suddenly, some screeching is heard above them, and when Kiva looks up, she sees griffin riders, carrying archers on their backs. Yep, it's official. I hit my head so hard and went crazy. Now I see griffins just like my grandson's D&D games. Kiva thinks in her male voice with a look of disbelief at this point, not realizing she's slightly loosened her grip on Kronos. High Commander Magnus rides up to the mage as he examines the battlefield before him. "Isn't him Chromia?" Magnus asks. "Yes, Commander. That is Kronos, the Time Dragon, no doubt about it. But something very interesting is at play here as well. The female centurion on his back shows signs of great power as well." Chromia replies as she points to Kiva. "I see. Well, let us first take care of our main priority of coming here," Magnus says as he slowly rides past Chromia, who begins casting another magical attack. Magnus slowly has his horse approach Kronos. He hand signals to the other men to surround him. Kronos' eyes shift as he watches the human soldiers encircle him, knowing he would have difficulty fighting fresh soldiers regardless of their race in his current condition. Kiva watches the armored soldiers surround them. As she does, Kronos feels her grip loosen and flings her off of him. Kronos then strikes the ground with his sword quickly. A sudden bolt of lightning comes down, followed by a thunderous thunderclap sending debris into the air. As the dust settles, Kronos is nowhere to be seen. Everyone frantically looks for him. "You won't be so lucky next time, woman. I will eliminate you before long," Kronos says in a booming voice from the sky above the village after transforming back into his dragon form. He then speeds off into the distance, heading north with a mighty roar. "Thank God," Kiva says as she collapses and passes out from extreme exhaustion. Seeing this, Xander yells out her name and rushes as best as he can to her side. The human soldiers surround them and begin to help the critically injured and wounded Centurions. Seeing that it is somewhat safe now, the villagers who fled into the forest begin to return slowly and are greeted by the human soldiers. Saga 1 concluded.